Good morning. Today we read chapter 28 of Matthew's Gospel, and this is the telling of the first Easter, the first resurrection, the first day that the disciples didn't know to celebrate yet, but they did. They came to celebrate, and as chapter 27 ended, the last verses. So they went and posted the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. So the tomb was sealed, and the guard was set. These soldiers were there. And as chapter 28 begins, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary are going to the tomb. And as they are getting closer, the angel comes. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descending from heaven rolled the stone away and sat on it. And so Matthew's Gospel tells us that the women were nearly there when the stone was rolled away, and they may have witnessed it. And it says that the guards that were there were for fear of the angel, the guards shook and became like dead men. They were paralyzed with fear. They were paralyzed with whatever, awe, wonder, and they just were there. And the angel looks at the women and says to them, "Do not be afraid, for I know you're looking for Jesus who's been crucified. He's not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come and see where they laid him." See where he had been. So the angels wanted to give these women an eyewitness account of that the tomb was empty. Come and see. And the women did. And then they did as the angel told them. They went and they told the disciples that Jesus would go ahead of them to Galilee. So they left the tomb, it says, quickly with great fear and great joy. I can understand both emotions. Great fear for having seen the angel, and what is this? How can this be? But yet with the joy, they'd come, with weeping and to mourn and to lament that Jesus was dead, and here, everything is turned around, and this is the way Easter is always for us. This is the way that forgiveness of the sins should be for us every day. That when we, as yesterday morning, we celebrated Holy Communion and we heard Matthew's words as he wrote. I use Matthew's words that this is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you and for all people for the forgiveness of sins. We should rejoice and be filled with joy at that, but we come somewhat somber, sometimes we keep our eyes a little bit downcast, but I think that's more out of the respect, the realization of what God has done for us, and yet the joy of the celebration, the reality of how this came to be, that Jesus had to die, for you and for me, but the joy that comes from knowing that he lives. So they ran filled with fear and great joy to tell his disciples, and then Jesus met them and he said, "Greetings." We say hello, but it's greetings, and it just sounds kind of odd when I read that, Jesus says greetings, but I could just well read it and say that Jesus says hello, and again, that too, how would that feel to be running to tell the disciples this great news, and then all of a sudden you see Jesus himself there. And he just, he says hello, and they came, it says, took hold of his feet and worshipped him. So to take hold of his feet, they must have prostrated themselves, laid on the ground in front of his feet, and that's what the disciples do as well when they see him, later. And then, and Jesus again says the same thing that the angel said, "Go and tell the disciples that I will go to Galilee, and there they will see me." And then, in the meantime, the guards come out of their paralysis of fear and awe, and they run to the city to tell the chief priests what happened. The guards. So are these guards, are they the Roman soldier guards, or are they temple guards? But they run to the chief priests and tell them what happened. And and the priests and the assembled elders devised a plan to give a large sum of money, it says, to the soldiers. And they say, well, just we'll tell people that the Jews came and stole him while you were sleeping, and then you'll be off the hook. While they were sleeping? I mean, they were supposed to be on guard. I mean, how could they get off the hook? Just tell them that, these disciples came, these unarmed men came against these armed soldiers who are guarding the tomb, and they were sleeping? I don't think that would get them off the hook at all with anybody. But that's what the story was. And that story continued to go around through the Jews, through the region. That this chief priests and the Pharisees had devised this cunning plan to explain the resurrection of Jesus, as the disciples stole his body away while we were asleep. And how could they ever think that people could believe that? I mean, these guards, these soldiers that were guarding were trained. Why would they fall asleep? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, they took the money, and that story was told. And then it says, verse 16, the disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain in which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, it says, they worshipped, but some doubted. How could these 11 disciples go? I mean, Matthew tells us it was the 11. Yes, verse 16. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain that Jesus had told them. And it says, some believed and worshipped him. Or when they saw, they worshipped him, but some doubted. How could anyone doubt? I mean, and that's one of the things that, really still today, with the evidence of the eyewitnesses, of all of the people that did see Jesus raised from the dead, and the word that went out, and how could there be doubt among that? But yet here, if these that see Jesus, some doubt, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that Matthew would say some doubted. I don't understand that. And then Jesus, verse 18 through 20, I mean, this is the Great Commission that we call it. And this is why we baptize as we do, because Jesus says to them, all authority in heaven and on earth and under the earth. No, he doesn't say under the earth. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. And so where does authority come from? Authority comes from a higher power. So Jesus' authority came from God himself. All authority has been given to me under heaven and on earth. And then Jesus says, go therefore into all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them all that I have commanded you. And this is what we do. I mean, at a baptism, we baptize the infant or the adult in with those words, and we ask the parents, the sponsors, the congregation, if they promise to, bring this person to worship, give the person the words of the Bible, and teach them the Lord's Prayer, the 10 Commandments, teach them what Jesus has taught them. And we do that as a congregation. And then the very last thing that Jesus says, and remember, I am with you to the end of the age. And for those of you that tuned in for worship yesterday, that word with is such an important thing. And for here now, again, Jesus says, I am with you to the end of the age. It is, I will be, the Lord is with me forever. Those words are so important. And I'm sure that you are understanding of the feeling of being with someone and how important that is to be with someone. Not just to be around, but to be with, to be in the presence of, to be, to be with. I mean, it's just, I don't know really quite how to explain it other than you're not alone. And this is what Jesus says, you are not alone. I am with you. And that's something we can count on every day, that Jesus is with me and with you.